Hello, everyone. I'm glad you could make it. It is August the 17th, 12:09 in the afternoon, 2024. This story concludes uh, my story of the uh, Bigfoot clan, the Dogmen, and the Dragons. We've fallen into a regular regime of boredom around our five homes. If something new happens, say somebody's training went, everybody was there because it was something different, right? We all wanted to help each other, so we're acting like a team. Um, we used to have the fires around the back of my place every Saturday night, but now it's Friday and Saturday night, and it's turning out to be quite a lot of people, right? So there was a new neighbor on the other side of Bob. I'd asked Bob earlier. I said, what's he like? And he says, no, he's going to be all right. So I said, invite him to the fire. So he comes with his wife and two children. His children are about 12 and 13 years old, right? And, I could see Pappy looking over and going, are we going to tell him with the children here? You know? I said, why not? Right? So, comes story time around the fire. Pappy stands up and tells everyone, his children and him, the story about uh, Big John and his Pappy. Um, then he went through the story of. He actually told them what happened in the town with the battle that was on this property. And to do that, he had to start telling them about the dragons. So he told them about the dragons. Now, Carol's at the fire, right? She's got like a raincoat on that goes down. You can't see anything but the raincoat. And now everybody's looking at her. Okay, she's a little weird. We'll accept her, right? But it come down to the part where Bob's friend didn't believe. He says that can't be true. He says that's a kid's story, right? I said no. I said that's absolutely true. Uh, I said show him, Carol. So Carol took the raincoat off and she was in her armor. She put the helmet on, and the guy next door, he thought it was a joke until he walked up upon her, and he could see, no, that's a real sword and that's real armor. And okay, if this is a joke, they're going to a long way to make it happen. So he says, he says, I'm not going to believe you guys till, because he thinks he's being pranked, right? Don't. It's till I see one, right? And just then, like every Saturday night, it wasn't Friday, every Saturday night, King and Kong would come. So just then, King and Kong stepped out of the bush. And Bob's friends saw him coming out of the darkness. And the light sat down around the fire. Now the kids were terrified. They ran to mommy and daddy. And the mom and daddy's sitting in a chair, so they were on top of the laps. And I said, don't worry. I got up and I gave King and Kong, I think it was a watermelon. We had food waiting for them when it came through. Rolled the King, and I sat and I hugged King and I hugged Kong. Now the two babies could see me do this, right? I said, well, I'm not showing you a dragon right now, but I said, will this do? And he looked at me, he goes, I said, yeah. I said, Carol, why don't you call Baby? Baby's in the house, right, with the porcelain. So I said, we gotta get Baby out here. She gets Baby, sits him on the other side of the fire, and Baby turns into a small dragon. I said, don't worry, they're here, they will protect you. They aren't gonna harm you. They'll be your friends. And kids they have a way about them, eventually. It didn't take long for the kids and Baby to be playing around the fire. And Bob's friend says, "Is that the dragon you're talking about?" I said, "Call your children over." So he did. And I said, "Baby, show them." And baby slowly turned into this magnificent dragon. Does he look mean when he turns into a dragon? This isn't a friendly face at all, right? So now, Bob and his friends, Bob's friends and kids are afraid, and they're backing away from the fire. I said, "Don't be afraid." I walked up to baby and I said, "Baby, give me a kiss." And baby held his breath and put his snout down next to my face, and I wrapped my arms around his head there and gave him a kiss and a hug. And the children saw that. Now the children, the adults, they stayed away. They know not to, But the children, they usually run right up, right? So King is sitting with his legs crossed on the ground, and the children are sitting on his laps, and baby's still a baby, shrinks down to a baby, and some of the children are riding baby's back like a horse, and they're having a merry old time with these children, right? So Bob's friend says, we told him, so you keep this quiet. They're absolutely quiet. I said, when they come to your back door, give them some food if you can. If you can't afford it, tell us. We'll put it in a garden for you, and you can get some food for them. They will protect you. They protected your, I forget his name now, David, who got crushed by the tractor. He says, "Did they do that?" I said, "Yes, the Bigfoot saved his life." I said, "You know that battle we had here with that, just before you moved in, we had a big battle, and they saved us then." He says, he says, he says, who you're fighting?" I said, "Dogman." He says, "There's Dogman too?" I said, "Yeah, we've only seen them once, right? And we defeated them, and we sealed up their cave, so I think we're all right for now." He says, "Okay." So the kids finally got tired, and they lied. We had some lawn chairs there, and we covered them over with a blanket, right, and put a pillow on. They were sleeping, and baby went and slept right beside them. Sometimes he'd put his head across their legs, or he was going to protect those children. So we got the radio going. It's about 4 in the morning, and the music stops, and our 1,500 people in town, right? He sets up. He says, "We have an emergency situation here in town." That got everybody's attention because we don't have any emergencies in town ever. Nothing ever happens. It's sheer boredom, right? He says, "The gas station, the one in the town, it just blew up." He said, "And we're missing 3 people. We don't know where they are." He says, the, uh, the radio man says the detective wants everybody, our chief wants everybody to stay in their homes. So about 20 minutes later, the announcer comes back on. He says, we don't think that this is an accident. We think it's deliberate. So everyone within the sound of my voice, protect yourself, right? We don't know what's going on." So we shut the radio off, and I go into Pappy and Carol and I think baby, I think they're actually, it was just baby came into my living room, and we got on the CB system that I have. I have a base station, and I have like 4 different people around town that I can communicate with that CB system. And I got my friend, he lives just at the one end of town, right? But he's on a little bit of a hill. He can see down onto the town perfectly. Sees the whole town. He says, I call him. He says, "Thank God." He says, "The gas station's on fire, shooting flames up 4 times the size of a building." He says, "The flames are crazy." He says, "People are running and screaming." He says, "It looks like there's huge animals running around down there killing people." He says, "Don't come to town." He says, "Board yourself up and protect yourself." So I signed off real quick. I said, "I gotta go." And he probably thought I was going to board up my house. No, I went in the backyard, and Carol got baby there out of the house, and he changed. King and Kong came with about 50 Bigfoot, right? And just as the 50 Bigfoot came out, I looked up in the sky and it was black. So the dragons were already here. So baby's on the ground. He changes to a big dragon, and Carol's got the armor on, and she gets on dragon's back, right on baby's back. Now, an albino, a white dragon, almost the size of baby, landed right beside baby. So I got on that baby's back, that dragon's back. So we're sitting on the ground. I look around, and I got the horns in my hand. I looked around, and the Bigfoot saw us do this, so they did it. They climbed up on the back of 50 dragons. More landed so they could do this. We all took off. We fly towards town. And as we approached town, we could see the flames from the gas station. See people running around screaming with dogmen running everywhere. Right? So Carol says we're going to drop all the Bigfoot at one end of town, and we're going to back them up with about maybe 100 dragons on the ground. And we're going to go through town and push all the dogmen into the end of town that's on fire. And then we'll hit them with our flames, and we'll do them there. But, so, yeah, that's what happened. Now, the dragons didn't even really have to land, because a Bigfoot can jump from a very high height. And before the dragon even landed, the Bigfoot jumped off his back and landed on the ground, boom, and took off running. Have you ever seen a Bigfoot run? They can go. They're 12 feet tall. Each step they take is like 12 feet long. I mean, so they went into the town, right? And there's about 100 dragons that, when they fold their wings up like this and tuck them in, that part of the wing is all armored. You couldn't shoot a bullet through it. They're well protected, right? So they came, 150 Bigfoot went through the town, and with 100 dragons behind them, in case they got in trouble, right? Now, there were the big Bigfoots, they stayed on the street, but the smaller ones that could get into these places would go into her, check all the closets under the bed, and, clear that apartment and then go on to the next one. Now, after this was all over, a father of two and his wife came to me. He says, a Bigfoot saved my life, our lives, all of our lives. I said, what happened? He says, I was in the basement, huddled in the corner, and one of those dogmen got in, and he came down the steps, and a Bigfoot jumped him from behind. A Bigfoot got him and killed him right in front of our family, and then left. Didn't do anything to us. I said, yeah, Bigfoots are your friend. They are really your friend. You can count on them, I said. So this went on all the way through town, pushed the dogmen all the way to the gas station that's on fire, right? And that's the Bigfoot. They surrounded that gas station in a big circle. Nothing got out. All the dogmen were in there, and that's when the dragons came over, one after another, in a line. This one would fire, and then would stop firing, and then this one would fire, and that one would stop firing, and they all concentrated their effort in this round circle, right? So after a while, everything was incinerated that was in the circle. No dogmen got away, right? So I'm not in the battle. I'm more of an observer and an instructor. Carol lands beside me, right? And I said to Carol, Carol, we got to find out where these dogmen are coming from. You can't have packs of them coming all the time. So Carol sent the message. I don't know how she does it. I think it's a mental thing with Carol. She's well hooked up to these dragons. About 100 of them, you could see them just flying off and checking the whole area, right? What they did was they followed their footsteps back to a gold mine, old, what did they say it was, old Dan's gold mine? Back in the bush, right? And they followed the footprints, and they came back at us. So Carol and Baby and albino dragon and I, we left. We went out there, and we could see that they were coming out, but they weren't coming out really fast right now. But I said, what happens if they start pouring out of there? I said, before we get our people here to do the battle, I said, they're going to have so many on the ground, we're not going to be able to do them. So I yelled across, I said, Baby, and Baby looked at me, and I pointed like this. So without Carol's doing this, Baby just moved right down onto the ground, because we were hovering when this was going on, right down on the ground, right in front of the cave. And Carol reached down, she grabbed her sword and pulled it out and pointed it right at the mouth of the cave and let that lightning bolt come out. Lightning bolt went right into the cave, right in as far as it could go almost. And then she fired her main weapon. This is like a phasers off the Enterprise. This thing was powerful. It didn't make her arm go like this. She had the total control. She held this sword right there, and the beam went into the mine, right to the back of the mine, where it had already broken out. I guess that when that meteor hit, it broke the back part of that mine open, and that's how they got out. So when she shot this laser, her phaser, I don't know what to call it, her beam of her power beam in there, it melted the back of the cave right up to the front of the cave. The whole mountainside was melted down, right? So nobody was coming out of there. The ones that got loose, we dealt with some of them, but the Bigfoot, who didn't have a battle in town, came our way and finally corralled most of these and killed them. So, we fly back to my place, right? And we land, and Carol and I are looking at each other because we're up in our years, and we're both saying, we're too old for this. We can't be hopping on dragons and going and do this kind of stuff. She said, this is a job for the young. I said to her, don't you have a daughter? She says, I don't know if I want to put her in this position or not. So, Carol's at the cave. Halfway through the summer, her daughter comes to my place. You have seen Mom? No. I haven't. She says, I'm worried something's wrong with her. I said, Elizabeth, I invited her in and sat her down and I held her hand. I said, Elizabeth, your mom is okay. She's better than you could possibly imagine. I said, and I said, I don't know if I should tell you this because your mom may be mad at me for this, but you need to know. I said, it's causing you pain. You're at my door crying. You gotta know. So I told her all the story about Pappy and the Bigfoot. And I told her all the story about Carol and the dragons and what happened in the last battle. And then I said to Elizabeth, I didn't tell her about the cave yet. I said, Elizabeth, you want to go see your mom? She goes, yeah, I want to go see Mom. I said, well, will you be brave? She goes, yeah. Huh? So I took baby outside. And he changed into a small baby. Well, that didn't ruffle her feathers at all, Elizabeth. She could see it took her all of about maybe 10 seconds to figure out that that's a nice beam. She's patting it. And I said, okay, now come over here, Elizabeth. She stood beside me. I said, okay, baby. And baby went into the big dragon. Now that did shock Elizabeth. She stood in behind me. I said, no, Elizabeth. I said, he's the same being that you were just patting. And I said, he's living in your house. I said, he is your friend, Elizabeth. Right? So, what had happened was a baby went and dropped Carol off in the cave and then came back. And that's where we have baby in the house. And so Carol, Elizabeth is... she says, I want to see, but I'll try to be as brave as I can. So I said, you see these hooks on this saddle on the side of baby? He said, we got to hang bags of food we take in with us, and candy and all kinds of stuff for these. She says, where are we going with all this? I said, one picture is worth 1,000 words. It's better for me to show you. So baby, Elizabeth and I, we fly through the water. When we go into this waterfall, baby puts his wings all around us so we don't get wet at all. Right? Baby goes into the deep part of the cave and lands in the spots he's supposed to. Big guys come out, they shrink down because they see his baby. Right? And now Elizabeth is in awe. There are baby sacks everywhere. There are small ones running around everywhere, and they're and the baby size that she saw at the house, they're everywhere. So I said, why don't you get off? she gets off and she's, you know, patting some of the smaller ones. She's getting along, right? She says, I said, when did you sleep last? She said, about 20 hours ago. I said, you need some sleep. So I knew where Carol kept her bed. So took her there, put her in the bed. And as soon as she got in the bed, the babies came. I could hear her giggling under this pile of babies, right? So I said, you all right? She goes, yeah, I'm okay. I'm just going to sleep here for a while. So I went down to the orchard and I had an apple and I had a banana and I had an orange. I don't know how they did that. Maybe it's the magic in them that does this, but they had everything there, right? So I stayed down there for quite a while, an hour or two, and when I came back, um, I was hoping to see Carol because I know she's here somewhere, right? And so I walked up. I'm going to check on Elizabeth, right? And who do I see standing at the foot of of Elizabeth's bed? It's Carol. She's not saying anything, right? So Carol went like this with her hand. She went like this, and the babies that were right on top of Elizabeth separated, and Carol Elizabeth sat up. Now she saw her mother there. She got out of bed immediately, and then they hugged and kissed. And Mama wanted to know what are you doing here, and you know, so um, Carol figures at this point, you know, she's in this far, she might as well go all the way with Elizabeth. So Carol shows her around. All the babies everywhere, man, and she's telling these are all eggs up here waiting to hatch, and she introduced her daughter to all the dragons. And then she goes down this one corridor, one cave. And in that one section of cave, it was light. There was light, and she walks in with baby because there's big doors, and there's a white albino dragon there, right? And as soon as the dragon sees Elizabeth, he shrinks down and goes into the gushy mode, you know. Runs over, wants pats and kisses, hugs, all that. Elizabeth's abiding for that. Carol says, because Carol came along with this, Carol says, now Elizabeth, this is your dragon. And Elizabeth looks at Mom, she, what do you mean my dragon? I said, he's going to live with you and protect you. And you can fly him anywhere you want. Keep him away from society, from people. But I said, I'm vouching for you right now. Please don't let me down. Don't do anything wrong with these. I love him like he's your best friend. So, and Carol walks her Elizabeth and the albino baby, which we're going to call White Wing, and baby. We all go out to the main cave. And it's like one end of the cave has got like a stage, a big flat open area on it. And Carol walks Elizabeth to the center there, and baby comes out and shrinks down, and White Wing comes out and shrinks down. And they're standing beside these two. And right in front of everybody, Carol takes her armor off. She first took the helmet off and placed it upon Elizabeth's head. And then she herself put boots on Elizabeth, shin guards, body armor, right? Handed her the sword and told her to be careful with that. I'll teach you about it in a little bit. And then put the shield on her back, right? She puts her arms through and the shield on the back, right? And as soon as she put the shield on the back, Carol stood back, away from her, right in front of all the dragons, and Carol kneeled down. As soon as Carol kneeled down, every dragon in the place, there must have been thousands of them, they all kneeled down and went quiet. They all, at that moment, they made Elizabeth uh, Elizabeth is the queen of the dragons. So, Carol tells her, she says, take White Wing home, let her shrink down, and find a good, safe spot in your living room for her. And take care of her, feed her, protect her, you know, like I do baby. You've seen the baby's figure in my living room? Just do that. So, I guess we're officially in retirement. You know, Carol and now, Carol was thinking about moving into an apartment, right? Because the house is too much for her now, right? I'm really old, right? So she moves into an apartment and takes baby with her. And even right now, as I speak to you, baby's sitting across from her in her living room looking at her. Carol's daughter got Carol's house, and Carol's daughter rented my house to someone and collected the money from that. And the man that she rented the house from was also okay, because he had a family, was also okay with this and was brought on board. So I got an apartment. It wasn't right next to Carol's, but it was. Carol was on the top floor of a 10th story building, and so was I. She was at one end, I was at the other. And we sort of tried to work it this way because I wanted baby to come visit me, and the only way he could visit me is to go to the balcony, jump off, and change into the dragon on the way at night, and then fly around to my apartment and land and change down and come in. That's the only way you could do that. Late at night, late at night, and then he'd spend the day at my place until the nighttime came, and he'd go back to see Carol or whatever. But yeah, right now, I'll bet you right now, Carol's looking at that baby in the living room. Life is much more than we know it. It truly is. I want you to remember that when you're thinking about God in heaven. He is a true entity. Always know the Holy Spirit's within you, and Jesus Christ walks right beside you. By God's good grace, by Jesus Christ's overflowing love, by the guidance, support, protection, and that joy that the Holy Spirit jumps on us all, we'll all meet each other in heaven down the road. If you could like and subscribe and hit the notification bell, that'd be great. I'm sure God would like that, and I know I would. Thanks very much for showing up. Until next time, blessings everyone. Stay strong. Bye-bye.